Hello, knife community, knife lovers, knife enthusiasts, interested viewers. Folder here. I want to do a quick review on the Cold Steel Engage. I was just thumbing through YouTube, looking at some videos, and this might be the most reviewed knife on YouTube. You know, it really might be. I mean, so there's a lot of reviews on this, and I might say really good ones. So, listen, if you've watched my channel, you know how I do reviews. I don't really do teardowns and really crazy testing. There are enough of that on YouTube, and they're excellent. Excellent. So, there's enough to go around. You can watch my channel from my perspective, and you can watch those channels if you want to see this thing put through rigors like unbelievable testing. So, it's out there. But I'm just going to put my twist on it and my take on it, and obviously the comparison to the Shark Lock, because that's the big comparison. So anyway, let's just get into it. The Cold Steel Engage is a heavy-duty, heavy-use knife, no doubt about it. It's 8.1 inches long, and if you've watched my channel, I have affinity for 8-inch knives. That is literally the sweet spot for me. I really, really like that size. It just seems to be ideal. Not too small, not too big. Really, really good. And yeah, with a 3.5-inch blade. So it's definitely set up for a lot of good work. One thing about this knife though also is that it's very tall. It's almost 2 inches tall. That's a really tall from the bottom to the top part to the highest part of the blade. I'm just mentioning that as a matter of fact. Nothing negative, nothing positive about it. It's on phosphor bronze washers. It weighs, actually it's phosphor bronze and Teflon. I noticed that Cold Steel does that. They use Teflon on my Recons. They have Teflon and no bronze, no phosphor bronze. They just have Teflon. Sometimes they use both. It creates a different type of feel, a different type of action, and they have their reasons for doing it. I guess it works for them. Yeah. So, oh yeah, and did I mention it's 6.5 ounces? So it's not light. It's over a 6-ounce knife. Over 6 ounces is heavy. Over 5 ounces, can be heavy. So, yeah. It has it has skeletonized steel liners. Really robust liners, but they are skeletonized. I don't know if you can see them in there on my angles, but it is. Okay, so the blade on this knife is very interesting to me. I really, really like this blade. It's one of my favorite. I mean, I like clip points that don't sweep up. Like a clip point that just kind of comes straight down is really one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite blade shape. So I do like that. This actually has that. It has a top swedge, which I find very attractive. And I love the way they hollowed out the spine. That's fantastic. Giving you a thumb ramp. Yeah, really good. You've got this front finger choil. So now, with this, they didn't use any jimping, which they don't have to, not with something like this. But with this front choil, so instead of sort of being here, well, let me do this like this, right? Instead of being here, you can actually choke up, right? So now you're really operating in the center here of the tool, and then you can put your thumb on the ramp. So now you have some bearing down leverage. That's very nice. Using the front choil and this ramp is smooth. Yeah, I mean, I do some wood crafting. I have a fireplace in my house, and I do a lot of kindling. And I use knives for it. Yes, I actually do use them. So yeah, I haven't used this for that, but I can see where it would work. Really nice. So that's another good thing. Um, yeah. So right. So that's the blade. It's got thumb studs, big ones at that. And then we have the Atlas lock. And basically, the Atlas lock is sort of it's a modified back lock. It's a combination between a back lock and the shark lock. It's very similar to the shark lock in the sense that it slides back, except they use a double pin system here instead of one. I have my 8020 here. With the OGs, you can't see the front pin, but there is a pin here. Wait, right, so you can actually see the pin. So there's a pin here, and then there's another one here, and then another one here that actually support the lock. And this has a dual pin system, and slide. It's very similar, but not quite. So yeah. So I've seen a lot of comparisons between these two. The jury's out on that. It's a matter of opinion, what you like, what you're used to. Personally, the position of the shark lock for me is a little easier. You're going from here and you're just pretty much coming up, and it doesn't bother me, the shark lock, in any of the grips. So some of the complaints about it, whereas the Engage, when you're holding a knife in its traditional grip, in order to access the lock, you have to actually come really far back. That's why they put these striations here for grip. So you have to change your grip to do it. I mean, you can probably thumb it, but then your fingers will be in the path of the blade, which is what you're supposed to be avoiding. So listen, this is all great. This is a fantastic time to have knives and like knives and be a part of the knife community, because we have options. Right? We have options. Yeah, this is a very nice knife. It's a very hard use knife. Yeah, and I like it. I am going to mention a few things about it that are bad. And listen, I love Cold Steel. Cold Steel is one of my absolute favorite knife companies. I love them. But shoot, you gotta come out and be honest. You can't just talk about the good stuff, and if there's you gotta mention the stuff that is bad, or stuff that you don't like. First off, out of the box, there was sideways movement in the blade, and it's still there. Do I think this is a problem in this knife with its hard use and functionability? No, I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. But I'm just making a statement of fact. We're comparing this thing to the shark lock all the time. This knife right here is the closest daggone thing to a fixed blade probably that I have. There's just no movement up or down, sideways at all. And it wouldn't be so incredible if it wasn't so fidgety. If it didn't have such the ability to just swing open and close in a moment's notice. It's just, yeah, I can do a whole video keep talking about the shark lock, but yeah. So Cold Steel, listen, guys, you need to do something about that on your next iteration of the Atlas lock. I don't know what this is. I don't know why that's there. I don't know if it's a short distance between the tang and the pivot and the main bolt. This thing has steel liners. I don't understand why there would be any side plate like that. You can take it out, but you got to tighten it up. And when you tighten it up, you lose some fidgetability. So, do you want to be able to fidget, or do you want that's a compromise. You don't have to make the compromise here. So that I don't like. Okay. The other thing is, I like the fact that I have a slot, a hole, and a thumb stud. I like the fact that I have that option. This blade with a fuller or a hole or something would have been nice. This is just an opinion, though. This is not something that, under most circumstances even has to be said. This is just, if you're gonna play the game that you're a fidgetable tool, right? Fidget is what we're talking about now. We're not talking about functioning. We're talking about fidgeting back and forth. Then if you're going to play that game, then, you really want to have, I can 5-finger flick this, and I mean, I'm not saying you can't with the thumb stud, but it's, I'm just putting it out there. And the other thing that I would say is bad about this, that for me, I'm sorry guys, I gotta apologize on this one, because this is something to me that's major. To me, the knife has no detent. I don't know, man. I can't. It has no detent at all. I mean, there's some, but it doesn't pull, which is fine. Well, it does. It pulls from there, right? So we saw where it pulled. It did pull from there, but there's really, and then when you manually just pull it apart, it feels like a slip joint. It doesn't even, I mean, listen, there's non-locking knives out there, right? Well, that's different because this locks in the open position, but yeah, I don't know. I think a knife should have detent. And I think a hard use knife like this should have detent. Do I think it's going to be a problem? No. Because, I mean, listen, it's not just sliding, it's not just opening up, but I can open it. I can add a little bit more force and open it. And it's just a thing, and if we're comparing it to the Demko, this knife is insane. I mean, once it gets to here, it pulls, and the detent is strong. It's actually perfect. It's not too strong. It's definitely not too weak, and you can really feel it. You can feel it constantly pulling back. Yeah, that I would have to say, for me, not having a detent is probably the biggest thing. Having said everything I just said, how do I feel about this knife? I love it. I love cold steel. I love, the shape of the blade, the handle, the way they added the striations here because you got to change your position if you're going to use your index finger to add grip here. The pocket clip is great. The lanyard hole. They didn't countersink the screws, but I understand why, because if they did, they would have to have a cutout on this side. They wanted a fit and finish look, so I get it. That's fine. It's cold steel. I love cold steel. So they got some crazy stuff, obviously, but for the most part, this is a very nice knife. It's got great fidgetability. It does have, a couple of shortcomings, but I'm not mad at them at all. Not like that. Not like to a point where, oh no, I would give the knife an overall bad review. No, I would not. I would say for the most part, thumbs up. It's just not 2 thumbs up. Maybe a thumb and a half, so anyway, all right guys, that's really it for this. That's the Cold Steel Engage. That's all I got.